Hello, fellow Americans, and welcome back to the All of Us podcast. I'm your host, Nathaniel Tavarez, and today we're going to break down a question that sounds simple, but becomes much more complicated the longer you sit with it. What actually makes a school feel safe? When most people hear the words school safety, their minds immediately go to locked doors, security cameras, emergency drills, metal detectors, school resource officers, and crisis response plans. And all of those things can matter. Physical protection matters. Preparation matters. Having responsible procedures in place matters. I know personally, as many of you do know, I survived a school shooting back in 2014, and I will never dismiss the importance of being prepared for the possibility of violence. But I also know something else. A school can be secure without truly feeling safe. A building can have locked doors while students still feel extremely exposed. A school can run emergency drills while a student feels completely alone. And there can be cameras in every hallway while bullying, self-harm, substance abuse, isolation, and fear continue growing beneath the surface. A student can be physically protected from someone entering the building and still be afraid to raise their hand, ask for help, report a concern, admit they are struggling, or simply be themselves. This is why school safety cannot be reduced to one policy, one product, one department, or one person. True safety exists when physical protection, emotional support, trusted relationships, and early intervention all work together. Today, I want to break down school safety into four connected areas: physical safety, emotional safety, relational safety, and preventative safety. Because when even one of those areas is ignored, students can begin falling through the cracks. Let's begin with the part of school safety that receives the most public attention: physical safety. Physical safety includes secure facilities, responsible access to buildings, emergency preparation, communication systems, reporting procedures, staff training, and plans for responding to a crisis. Schools should know who is entering the building. Doors should, in fact, function properly, and emergency plans should not exist only in a binder that no one has opened in 3 years. Staff members should understand their responsibilities. Students should know how to report something that concerns them, and families should know how the school will communicate during an emergency. First responders and school leaders should not be meeting for the first time in the middle of a crisis. These are not extreme expectations, these are simply basic responsibilities. But physical safety has to be approached carefully. There is a difference between creating a prepared environment and creating an atmosphere of constant fear. Students should understand emergency procedures, but they should not spend every school day feeling as though disaster is inevitable. Teachers should be prepared, but they should not be expected to carry the entire responsibility for protecting a campus while also teaching, mentoring, managing classrooms, and supporting students. Technology may support safety, but technology alone cannot understand a child. A camera may record what happened, a locked door may slow down a threat, an alarm may warn people that danger is present, but those tools cannot replace human awareness, good judgment, strong relationships, or early action. Physical security is necessary, but physical security is the outer layer of safety. It cannot be the entire strategy. Because some of the most serious threats students face do not begin outside the building. They begin inside a student's life. They begin with hopelessness, humiliation, isolation, abuse, bullying, anger, rejection, addiction, or the belief that nobody would care enough to listen. That brings us to the second area. Emotional safety means that students can express fear, failure, pain, confusion, or uncertainty without immediately being mocked, dismissed, embarrassed, or punished for being honest. It does mean It does not mean students never experience discomfort. Growth can be uncomfortable. Accountability can be uncomfortable. Receiving correction can be uncomfortable. Emotional safety does not mean removing every challenge from a student's life. It means creating an environment where students can face challenges without believing that one mistake will destroy their identity or their future. Think about the student who is afraid to admit that they do not understand the lesson. The student who is terrified of being laughed at when they speak. The student who is struggling at home but has learned to smile through the day. The student whose grades are failing not because they are lazy, but because they are exhausted, anxious, grieving, distracted, hungry, or overwhelmed. The student who wants to ask for help, but is afraid the adult will overreact, dismiss them, expose them, or treat them differently afterward. A student may sit quietly in class, follow the rules, turn in assignments, and still be caring more than anyone realizes. That is why emotional safety requires adults to look beyond behavior alone. Behavior matters and expectations matter. Students need structure, boundaries, responsibility, and accountability, but behavior is also communication. A sudden change in attitude can mean something. A student who begins withdrawing may be communicating something. A student who becomes unusually angry may be communicating something, and a student who stops caring about activities they once loved may in fact be communicating something. Not every difficult behavior signals a crisis, but every significant change deserves curiosity before condemnation. Instead of immediately asking, "What is wrong with this student?" we may need to ask, "What is happening in this student's life?" That is one shift in perspective that can change the entire response. Students need to know that telling the truth about what they are experiencing will not automatically make everything worse. They need adults who can remain calm, adults who can listen without turning the student's pain into gossip, adults who know when confidentiality must be broken to protect someone, but who can explain that process with honesty and care. Adults who do not shame students for needing support. A school begins to feel emotionally safe when students understand these things. I can make a mistake and still be treated with dignity. I can ask a question without being humiliated. I can admit that I am struggling. I can tell someone when I'm afraid. I can disagree respectfully. I can hold I can be held accountable without being made to believe that I am worthless. That does not happen through posters on the wall, it happens through culture. And culture is built through repeated interactions, one conversation at a time. The third area is relational safety. Relational safety means that students have trusted adults, healthy peer connections, a sense of belonging, and confidence that their concerns will be taken seriously. In the previous episode, we talked about the most important adult in a student's life. That conversation connects directly to this one because policies do not notice when a student's personality changes. relationships do. A handbook does not recognize when someone who is normally energetic suddenly becomes silent. Relationships do. A security camera does not ask a student why they have been eating lunch alone for the last 3 weeks. Relationships do. Students need at least one adult they can identify by name when asked. Who would you go to if something was wrong? Not who they are technically supposed to go to. Not the name printed on a poster. Not someone assigned to them whom they barely know. Who would they actually trust? For one student, that person may be a counselor. For another, it may be a teacher, a coach, a principal, a custodian, a bus driver, a school resource officer, a cafeteria worker, a secretary, a sponsor, or a staff member who simply took the time to notice them. Every adult on campus contributes to this culture of safety. That does not mean every adult is expected to act as a therapist. It simply means every adult should understand that the way they speak, listen, respond, and follow up can either open a door or close one. Relational safety also exists between students. Students need to feel that they belong somewhere. They need healthy friendships, positive organizations, teams, activities, classrooms, and communities where they are known. Belonging does not mean every student will be best friends with everyone. That is really unrealistic. Belonging means a student can answer the question, where do I fit? When a student believes that they have no place, no purpose, no trusted person, and no reason to believe tomorrow will be different, risk grows. But when students feel connected, they are more likely to speak up. They are more likely to report concerns, more likely to ask for help, more likely to notice when someone else is struggling. This is why student leadership matters. Peer support matters. Mentorship matters. Clubs, athletics, fine arts, career programs, faith communities, and service opportunities all matter. These experiences are not merely extras to fill a schedule. For some students, they're the place where identity, purpose, discipline, and belonging truly begin to form. Relational safety also means that when a student reports something, the student sees evidence that the concern mattered. They may not be entitled to every private detail about what happens next, but silence can destroy trust. When students repeatedly report bullying, threats, harassment, substance abuse, or concerning behavior and believe that nothing changes, they stop reporting. And once students stop believing adults will respond, schools lose one of their most valuable sources of information. Trust is really difficult to build, and it's very easy to lose. And it cannot be demanded. It has to be earned through consistency. The fourth area is preventative safety. Preventative safety means recognizing and addressing concerns before they become emergencies. This includes isolation, bullying, self-harm, substance abuse, significant behavioral changes, threats, escalating conflict, hopelessness, and other warning signs. Prevention does not mean assuming that every struggling student is dangerous. That would be both irresponsible and deeply harmful. Mental health challenges should not automatically be treated as indicators of violence. Students should not be labeled, criminalized, or treated as threats simply because they are different, angry, quiet, socially isolated, or receiving mental health support. Prevention requires discernment. It means gathering information responsibly, looking at patterns rather than rumors, taking concerns seriously without jumping to reckless conclusions, bringing the right professionals together listening to students, families, educators, counselors, administrators, and others who may each hold one part of the picture. It also means responding early to concerns that may never become acts of violence, but are still destroying the student's life. A student does not need to be on the verge of committing violence before intervention becomes important. The student experiencing relentless bullying deserves intervention. The student considering self-harm deserves intervention. That student using substances to escape pain deserves intervention. That student who's becoming consumed by anger also deserves intervention. And that student who feels invisible also deserves intervention. The purpose of prevention is not only to stop the worst possible outcome, it is to reduce suffering before suffering becomes a crisis. Schools need reporting systems that students understand and trust. But simply creating an anonymous reporting form is not enough. Students need to know what should be reported. They need to understand the difference between a reporting of legitimate concern and spreading a rumor. They need reassurance that speaking up is not betrayal. And they need evidence that responsible reports are reviewed by trained people who know how to respond. Prevention also requires schools to examine patterns. Where is bullying most likely to happen? Which students are repeatedly absent? Who has experienced a sudden academic decline? Where are the conflicts escalating? Which students appear disconnected from every adult and activity? What concerns are appearing repeatedly across classrooms, reports, or peer groups? No single observation tells the entire story, but connected information can reveal a problem that would otherwise remain hidden. The greatest safety system in the world is useless if people see warning signs but assume someone else will handle them. Prevention requires shared responsibility, not panic, not suspension, responsibility. Now let's bring the four areas together. So we have physical safety, emotional safety, relational safety, and preventative safety. These are not four competing approaches. These are four parts of the same shared responsibility. Physical safety protects the environment. Emotional safety protects a student's dignity and ability to be honest. Relational safety creates trust and belonging, and preventative safety helps communities recognize concerns and act before the situation becomes a crisis. Remove one, and the system weakens. Physical security without relationships can create a building that feels controlled but disconnected. Emotional support without responsible procedures may leave people unprepared for emergencies. Relationships without prevention systems can result in adults caring deeply but not knowing how to act. Prevention without emotional safety can create fear, overreaction, and students who are afraid to be honest. True safety requires balance. It requires educators, students, parents, counselors, administrators, first responders, community organizations, mental health professionals, faith leaders, policymakers, and every person willing to take responsibility for the environment young people are growing up in. No one group can do this alone, and no single solution will solve every problem. That truth may be frustrating, but it should also be hopeful, because it means every one of us has a role. You may not control the architecture of a school, but you can notice a student. You may not write district policy, but you can report a legitimate concern. You may not be a counselor, but you can listen and connect someone to help. You may not lead an emergency response team, but you can learn the procedures and take preparation seriously. You may not be able to change an entire school overnight, but you can help change the experience of one person tomorrow. As we prepare for this upcoming school year, I want every student, parent, educator, school leader, and community member listening to consider 4 questions. Does our school protect students physically? Can students be honest without humiliation? Does every student have someone they can trust? And are we prepared to recognize concerns and act before they become crisis? We may not like every answer, but honest reflection is where improvement begins. A safe school is not simply a building where nothing terrible has happened. It is a place where people are intentionally working every single day to protect life, preserve dignity, build trust, recognize pain, and respond with courage. So I want to leave you with the same question that guides so many of our conversations here. How can we continue building schools and communities where every child feels safe? Safe from violence, safe from self-harm, safe from bullying, safe from substance abuse, and safe enough to become everything they dream of becoming. Share your perspective. Bring your experiences into this conversation. Ask the students in your life what safety means to them, and then listen carefully to every one of their answers. Because building safer schools will never be the responsibility of one superintendent, one teacher, one parent, one police officer, one counselor, or one organization. It belongs to all of us. Thank every single one of you for joining me for this episode of the All of Us podcast. Until next time, keep believing in people, keep building hope, and remember, a school does not become safe simply because the doors are locked. It becomes safe when the people inside those doors know they are protected, supported, heard, and never alone.